Hello and welcome everyone to this episode of the Khanistan podcast. Today I wanted to discuss the tense situation between India and Pakistan, the brouhaha, belligerent statements coming from India, and where all of this is leading us. So to discuss this, joining me from Islamabad, I have two special guests, return guests actually. We had them not too long ago. We have Ahmed Quraishi and Altaf Wani. We spoke to them, both of them, not too long ago, and actually we were discussing the situation in occupied Kashmir, the tension, the crackdown resulting from the removal of Article 370 in that state, and the implications of it. So if you haven't seen that episode already, I would really highly recommend it. We'll leave a link to that. So go and watch that maybe after this episode. But for now, without further ado, let me welcome Ahmed Quraishi and Altaf Wani. Welcome to you both.
Good to be with you, Tiffy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So, gentlemen, many of our viewers will remember you from our previous discussion, but since then we've had many new subscribers joining us, new viewers, which is a good thing. So, if you wouldn't mind, if you could just take a moment to just tell us a bit about your background, maybe starting from Altaf Wani.
Yeah, I do not get it.
If you could tell us a little bit about your background, what do you do and where are you at the moment?
Oh, yeah, I am Altaf Wani. I am currently the chairman of Kashmir Institute of International Relations and Human Rights Activists. Basically, I am from Indian-occupied Kashmir. I have migrated from Indian-occupied Kashmir to Azad Kashmir, and then I am settled in Islamabad currently. So this is my background.
And Ahmed Quraishi?
Yes, Tafhim. Well, I'm just a journalist, and I'm mostly based in out of Islamabad. I keep traveling, of course, to various parts of the Middle East also for my work, because I also work in Middle Eastern conflicts, but a journalist who covers national security and mostly based in Islam.
Thank you. So, guys, I wanted to talk about the terrorist attack in Kashmir, in Pahalgam, and the repercussions of that, the reaction of Indian state, Indian media, and then obviously how that's being taken in Pakistan. So to start with, maybe Altaf Wani, because you're from occupied Kashmir and you're familiar with the area, can you tell us a little bit about where the attacks took place and if there's any significance of that location and what exactly happened?
Thank you very much. Basically, this attack happened in Pahalgam, Pahalgam, Barsan Valley in Pahalgam. You know that whole of the area is a very familiar for its touristic resorts. And the Barsan Valley is also a tourist resort in the Pahalgam. And to our surprise, the attack which happened over there, for everyone who is living in Kashmir, who knows the Kashmir and who knows the Kashmir's freedom struggle, or you may call the militancy in Kashmir and each and everything, or the current security situation in Kashmir, the militarization in Kashmir, everyone is surprised by this kind of attack which happened over there. Because this valley, this whole of the Pahalgam is very under heavy security grid 24/7. And you have all the cameras, each and everything there. Plus, this Pahalgam is also familiar, very much known for the Amarnath Yatra, which is famous Amarnath Yatra. The road to Amarnath is from this Pahalgam. So, whenever anybody travels to Pahalgam, he has to face 10 to 15 checkposts from the road which leads from Anantnag to Pahalgam. So there is each and everywhere there is a checkpost there. And plus the place which where it happened, it is currently only 1 kilometer away. There is CRPF's Rapid Action Force camp. So there, and in presence of such a huge military presence and all that, there such an incident happening, and we could not see a single fire from the Indian CRPF military or any other police personnel, and they reaching the place after 1.5 hours or so. They reached there, and then soon they started. As they reached there, then we could see the Indian media flooded with the news that this terrorist attack has been carried out by the Pakistan and Pakistan-backed militants, and they have killed the Hindus, and they have this is an assault on India, and that much we could see from their media. And also they then said that this has been done with the collaboration of the local Kashmiris, and we could see the repercussions of that in the mainland India, what the Kashmiris face, the students who are studying in different universities of India in different places, and the businessmen who are doing business in different places of India, and also other workers who are just daily wagers or doing some job in different parts of India, Kashmiri Muslims, the kind of reprisals they face, the kind of revenge they face from the Indian public, from these Hindu extremist groups in all over the places. So this was the one, the repercussions of it. And the second, what India and Pakistan, I believe that, as that we will discuss later on, India and Pakistan, what were the repercussions in the Indian-occupied Kashmir. Soon after this incident happened, when the government of India said this is that, and then we could see a huge crackdown throughout the valley of Jammu and Kashmir, each and every place in the Kashmir valley, and also in the Muslim populated areas of Jammu, like Poonch, Rajouri, and other places. And within the span of 5 6 days, we could see that as many as 20 odd houses were blown up by using the high explosive by the Indian military, and also over 5,000 people from different places of Indian-occupied Kashmir. They were arrested. They were called to the police stations. It was all those who have been any late in past with the freedom struggle, or they had any FIR, or they were arrested in past, all those were rounded up. They were put behind the bars, and some of them have been sent to the jails outside India. But most of them are in Indian-occupied Kashmir in different police stations. They have been rounded up, and we could see in this period of time, just in 4 5 days, two extrajudicial killings happening over there. One was Altaf Lali, a person from Ajas, Manipura. His brother Talib is incarcerated. He is in Kot Balwal jail, Jammu. Talib, according to the military establishment or security apparatus of Indian-occupied Kashmir, Talib is a militant belonging to Hizbul Mujahideen, and so on. But Altaf was at home. He was called to the police station in the evening along with all the family, and the family was asked to go home. They went back to the home, but the next day they were asked to come to to identify the body of a branded terrorist, the deadly terrorist Altaf Lali. This is a cold-blooded murder by the Indian Army in order to, like we have seen in past, I will go rather in past, we could see that when in the Chatti Singh Pora incident happened in 2000, when President Bill Clinton was visiting India and Pakistan and Sri Lanka, Bangladesh at that time, we could see the killing of 36. And the next day, the Indian Army then killed 5 people in the locality of they were killed there, and they were dubbed as foreign militants. But there was a local hue and cry protest at that time. Then bodies were exhumed and they were found. Those were local Gujar Bakrwals of that area. And then we could see the sequence of investigations on that, and the Indian Army was found guilty in that, but no punishment was awarded to them. Likewise, this incident, it happened over there. They accused the Kashmiri freedom fighters, and then had a huge operation. And then we could see one Altaf Lali, and then another guy in Kopara district, Ghulam Rathar. He was Magre. He was also killed in cold blood murder. So these are the happenings which took place, and on with that, a very punitive actions which government of India took. All those people who have married in Azad Kashmir, because you could see in 1947 we had a huge separation. It was not on the separation divide of land; it was divided families. We had thousands of divided families across the line of control on the both sides, and the people could not meet themselves. It was only after the when we started the cross LOC travel and trade, we could see the people reuniting. And in that case, we had certain people married in Azad Kashmir, and some people married in Indian-occupied Kashmir. They brought their whole relationship here. But Indian government at once just issued an order, revoked their visas, revoked their permission, and said all these women should be sent back, forcing them to go back to Pakistan and to go to Azad Kashmir and leave their kids and husbands over there. This is you can say this is huge violation of international law. You can't divide a family. It is a violation of right to have a family and all these things. But thanks, because again, government of India has to face a little bit of embarrassment by the High Court of Jammu and Kashmir, because High Court of Jammu and Kashmir stayed this order. They said that you cannot separate them because there is a reason. One of the reasons is that when the government of India claims that Indian occupied Kashmir and Azad Kashmir and each and every part of Kashmir is the integral part of India, and that by the Indian Constitution, every Kashmiri, whether he's living in Pakistan or anywhere, he's a citizen of India. So they cannot deny him the right to live over there. So what they try to do it, and they are settled on it, and we are very much afraid of it. They will do it. So we could see the people of Kashmir in occupied Kashmir facing the repercussions of this incident, and now the comes to who is the beneficiary of this event. It's evident. It is India. India tried to benefit itself on one hand by doing so. U.S. Vice President was in India. The other thing, Modi was in Saudi Arabia. He wanted to tell the Saudis and other Arab countries that, look here, you are supporting the Kashmiris' cause. This Kashmiri people, this is not right celebration. It's the international terror. They want to tell them. They want to tell the United States that they thought that, like Israel, they will go without accountability here also. So these are the things which India and Waqf bill was one of the reasons in India there was agitation all over, and they thought that to divert the attention from that, and we could see they were on these three fronts. They had that on in Kashmir they launched the operation to flesh out the freedom fighters, to flesh out the resemblance of the freedom struggle. What they had earlier said that there are only two militants in Kashmir Valley FQ, but they now rounded 5,000 people, and they keep on rounding. So I will end it here. We'll have a further.
Altaf Sahab, thank you so much. You've touched upon so many very important points that I want to discuss. So talking about the marriages being separated, I didn't even know about this, and it's very unfortunate. Also talking about the brutal crackdown that's happened since these attacks on the innocent Kashmiri citizens, when already the Kashmiris were facing so many different obstacles and suppression from the Indian state. And also, you've talked about the past history of Indian government staging events like this, and actually facing embarrassment on the international stage because it kind of just people, nations, institutions, they're not completely foolish. They can see some of these staged events that come out of India. So we'll talk about all of those. Before we get there, I do want to ask you a little bit about what is India saying at the moment. So with these events that have happened in Pahalgam, and they're accusing Pakistan, what are they saying? Are they saying 5 militants crossed the border, came in from Pakistan, crossed all the checkpoints, went to Kashmir, did the attacks, and returned to Pakistan? Or are they saying that Pakistan is providing intelligence to these people? What are they accusing Pakistan of?
They have been changing many stances when they said that they have come from Pakistan firstly. And then when they lied the FIR was that it is indiscriminate firing. Firstly, the Indian media and Indian people in studios, they said it was target killing. And then in FIR, they have said that it was indiscriminate firing in that area. But then we could see that they have demolished the houses of from Kashmiris, blaming them being the masterminds of this plot, and they have done it. And so far, they have not. They what one thing they but they have been telling that some equipment or something was found there which has a Pakistani link, or like this cola, what we call that. Uh, Gourmet Cola. Gourmet Cola was found over there. So it is Pakistan. Who will tell them that this place is right 200 kilometers away from the border? If you come from any side of the border, it is 200 kilometers away. As well, people from Pakistan crossing through too much of this security grid will reach there with this gourmet cola, and they have nothing to do with, and they will take gourmet cola from Pakistan to that place. The foolish accusations they have lashed against Pakistan and accusing Pakistan and trying to make Pakistan and in it as a scapegoat. This is their old thing, but what the Indian government, when they did it, the main purpose of Indian government to have it, and we have seen for a long time, Indian government was telling to the Pakistanis or to international board sometimes that we want to negotiate this renegotiate in this water treaty. This was once upon, this was an argument. Then they started that we are going to, Modi said, we will come out of this in this water treaty. From last 3-4 years, we have been listening to Narendra Modi and his colleagues that we are coming out of this. So they took a refuge under it, and then they said we are putting the Indus Water Treaty in abeyance.
Yeah,
And this
you're right.
means like categorical war against Pakistan, because the treaty has so much importance for Pakistan. If Pakistani youth, Pakistani people will come to know what importance does the Indus water has for the people of Pakistan, then I would see a different situation. It is directly that India has declared war against the people of Pakistan.
Yes.
So this is what India is trying to do, and they try to manipulate.
You're absolutely right. This was the Indus River trying to um, wriggle out of this agreement was a policy of the Indian government for some time now. So they're clearly taking trying to take advantage of this situation, which happened or they created. But Ahmed, can I bring you into the conversation as well? So, from your point of view, as a journalist sitting in Islamabad, looking at the media as is coming out news in Pakistan, and also observing the media inside India, how do you see it? What are the allegations being brought forward towards Pakistan, and what are the basis of those? Because some of these things that are coming out, as I see it, are very childish and amateur, and not something that can be kind of taken as evidence in any court of justice.
Exactly, Tafhim. Well, of course, I defer to all things related to Kashmir to Wani Sahib. He's the expert voice here. So and we heard, of course, the Indian government, and we've heard the Pakistani government. What I will say here is from the perspective of a journalist who's covered conflicts. So what I'm going to say is, first of all, I mean, it is a very complex situation. There's no question about it. But I will begin from the two interactions that both Pakistani and Indian leaders had with two countries that have intervened to try to contain this crisis. One is Saudi Arabia, and the other is the United States. So the Saudi foreign minister called and spoke to his counterpart in Pakistan, Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sadab, and he also spoke to his counterpart in India. And we don't have many details of the conversation, but I'll go by the official statement by the Saudi foreign ministry. It said, obviously, the Saudi foreign minister was trying to lower the temperature and convince both countries to de-escalate. Honestly, after the Saudi foreign minister's call, and Saudi Arabia, of course, has historic, robust ties with Pakistan, 7 decades, and fairly excellent ties with India developed over the past decade. But despite that influence that Saudi Arabia has, we didn't see any de-escalation. In fact, it got worse after that. Of course, not because of any lack of trying by Saudi Arabia. I'm sure the Saudi foreign minister tried his best, but it wasn't enough, and we saw a very clear trajectory of escalation by India and, of course, Pakistan responding to that. And now, finally, first of all, we saw a very, I would say, blasé, relaxed reaction from the United States initially. And it was quite obvious that no one in the international community is really interested. Let's be very honest. There is an international fatigue with the crises between Pakistan and India. The latest one was just 6 years ago, a bit less than 6 years ago. Before that, we've had several episodes. We all recall the 2003 India bringing all of its military along Pakistan's borders. But this time, with the war in Ukraine, the trade war between China and the US, everything that happened in the Middle East over a year and a half, beginning with the Gaza war, but then moving to Lebanon, then to Syria, then Yemen, then Iran itself, now with the nuclear talks, there's a whole fatigue with conflict. So initially, it was not surprising to see that the international community was really not interested. I was watching the Middle Eastern and the international media, and for the first, I would say, 5 or 6 days, the international media wasn't even interested. We only began to see the international media begin to cover what's happening between Pakistan and India, maybe 4th or 5th day into the crisis. And finally, of course, now we have the international media completely covering the conflict. Obviously, now everybody's tuned to, especially when the Secretary of State of the U.S. spoke to his counterpart in India and spoke to the Prime Minister of Pakistan, obviously. And so it's really very interesting to see the U.S. basically obviously wants to engage with both Pakistan and India. It has, I can see very clearly that the Americans would like to be engaged equally with both Pakistan and India. So I didn't see the US, for example, endorsing the Indian position, but it's interesting to see that the Americans would like to see a stronger condemnation from Pakistan of the incident and Pakistani cooperation in the Indian investigation. But I know that the Indian media is focused on these 2 points, but let's not forget that the American Secretary of State also asked India to re-engage with Pakistan and to de-escalate, and also asked India to take some steps to reestablish communications. I spoke to a few people who understand the diplomatic language, and I understand that basically the US is asking India to sort of step back, for example, on the water treaty, to step back on the closing of the Indian airspace for Pakistan. Of course, the Americans also would like Pakistan to also step back from the closing of Pakistani airspace for India-bound flights. So we're beginning now to see this conversation take place. I will not say that we see any de-escalation yet. The good part is, I like to, as a journalist, I like to think that we still have sane minds maybe somewhere in New Delhi, because we don't see them on Indian TV. We see warmongering, we see naked calls for aggression. We don't see any sanity, honestly, from Indian media. But I'd like to think that there might be somewhere in New Delhi, some sane minds left. We see a lot of sanity from Islamabad. We see, and I think this needs to be highlighted, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, Foreign Minister Haqdar, I think both of them managed this so far, the crisis, in a very responsible way. They've been constantly emphasizing restraint, constantly emphasizing that Pakistan does not want conflict, and not only that, they stepped forward to also give a face saver to India through a neutral probe. And then, of course, on the military side, we saw a very robust message that although we don't want an escalation, but we are completely ready to not only meet whatever India decides to do in terms of military action, but not only meet that, but also exceed it. So Pakistan has handled it very, very well, very responsibly. But despite all these, and one more positive thing that I must highlight, which is the fact that both countries, both militaries, despite all the talk of conflict and the escalation, the gradual escalation, especially from the Indian side, Pakistan did not escalate. Pakistan was mostly reacting and responding. But a positive thing from both sides actually is that along the LOC, the escalation, the skirmishes, the shelling did not proceed to proceed on the ladder of escalation. So we didn't see the use of gradual use of heavier military equipment. So what we're seeing so far on LOC, which is still very dangerous, still cannot be underestimated, but it's still limited to the use of those equipment and weapons which traditionally have been used along the LOC to signal to each other, but have not jumped on the ladder of escalation to heavier equipment and heavier weapons. So that's a positive thing on both sides. So both countries are signaling that we are capable of meeting the threat, but they're not quickly going up the ladder of escalation. But still, having said all of this, it's a very, very dangerous situation because, with anything, at any moment, it can go wrong. And it's quite obvious from the messaging we see from the Indian side, although maybe there have been a couple of statements from both the Indian Prime Minister and from the Indian, from Amit Shah, for example. The messaging from the Indian media itself and the language they're using and the kind of details the Indian media, I mean, usually but also the international media, whether it's in Southeast Asia, or it's in the West, or it's in the Middle East, everybody has become accustomed to really not paying a lot of attention to the Indian media because everybody knows that it's more about jingoism and rhetoric and populism than anything substantive. And everybody saw that happen in Feb of 2019 when the Indian media was giving very serious analyses on downing a Pakistani F-16, and it turned out it was a complete lie, and the Indian media was badly exposed. So the reaction from the international media even this time was not to take the Indian media too seriously. But we need to be very, very worried because the kind of details that we are seeing coming from anchors on the Indian media anchors obviously are not generals, but the kind of details they're coming up with shows that there is constant round-the-clock briefing from the Indian government. And so the details that are coming, I think we need to sit up and pay attention to what they're saying. It's very serious. It's part psyops and disinformation and information warfare to unsettle Pakistan, to destabilize Pakistan. But part of it can also conceal serious plans to attack Pakistan. So it's a very serious situation. And that's generally my overview.
I completely agree. First of all, talking about how we had such a knee-jerk reaction from the Indian politicians, the Indian government, Indian media, knee-jerk and such strong reaction, but so swiftly without actually taking any time to consider what's going on. So it was a little bit like it was pre-planned, all of this, the reaction, which then leads us to think whether the actual events were pre-planned as well. But in doing so, they're kind of painting themselves in a corner where now they have to have some kind of a response. And I completely agree with you that we would hope that there would be some kind of sanity that will prevail in Indian establishment. And I can only see that coming from the Indian military, who, at the end of the day, not talking about like the public sentiments, but they have to do um, analysis of actually what can be achieved. And I've been listening to a number of commentators in the Indian media, and there have been some retired generals, not a lot of them, but there have been some who have been pretty accurate and pretty reasonable in saying that there's actually very limited amount of things that can be achieved realistically, not because Indian army is weak, but because Pakistan has the ability to defend itself within its own borders. So I hope that some of that is going to come forward. I think maybe some of the softening that we're seeing, hopefully, is a result because India expected expected a lot more or some condemnation of Pakistan from the international community. And actually, so far, it is pretty amazing that no country has come out and criticized Pakistan on any of this or implemented Pakistan on any of it, because there is no evidence. Obviously, everyone, including Pakistan, is going to condemn terrorism, but no one's condemned Pakistan, which is a pretty big thing, I think, and something that India, I don't think that they were expecting. And I think that's one of the things that's kind of making them scratch their heads and think twice. And the second thing is that the reaction that we've seen from China, I don't think we've ever seen a reaction like that before. I mean, obviously, China and Pakistan have a long-standing partnership and friendship. But in times like this, China has always come out and said that both parties should display restraint and both parties should have dialogue and etc. etc. But this time, China's really come out and said that they will not allow Pakistan's national integrity and national boundaries to be compromised. And in doing so, they've even provided Pakistan with some weapons, defensive weapons. And I think those kind of things are something that India did not take into consideration at all. And I think that I'd be interested to see what you guys think about that. And Ahmed, you go first. Hello?
I'm sorry, did you ask me, Tafim?
Yes, I was saying, so what do you think about the reaction in this whole situation and how that's playing off? The reaction of China and also the neutral reaction of the international community, as you've already talked about. But how do you see the implication of all on all of this, of the statements that are coming out of China?
Yes, of course. The obviously the Chinese have a very critical strategic sort of assessment of South Asia, where they have a place for Pakistan in their national security doctrine. With India, I have to say a couple of things. While China has improved dramatically its relationship with India over the recent years, and let's not forget that India is China's biggest trading partner internationally, the largest trading partner internationally. So the Chinese did improve their relationship with India, and also as a consequence of that economic relationship, the Chinese also established some understandings with the Indians, and those understandings, of course, I'm analyzing here because both India and China did not openly say that we have understandings, bare minimum understandings on certain things. But we saw them in action, those understandings, Tafhim, when in 2020 and also in 2021, there were border skirmishes between India and China, and there were widespread speculation that there could be a huge conflict between India and China. And we all and some of the Western countries were hoping that India would robustly stand up to China. India didn't. India actually all those expectations that India would play the role of sort of a representative of West's desire to contain China. The Indians didn't do that. Indians actually were did not escalate on the border. They kept whatever skirmishes that were happening between Indian and Chinese soldiers to the bare minimum, using very light weaponry. And that was and that was not possible, Tafhim. That was not possible without some sort of understandings. And of course, we are seeing Chinese companies increasingly using Indian cities to launch their products. Some of them, tech companies especially. So there are robust understandings between India and China, but at the same time, there are a very robust Chinese-Pakistani national security and geostrategic understandings, which India doesn't have. And those national security and geostrategic Chinese-Pakistani understandings rest on, number one, the balance between Pakistan and India in the Chinese calculus. So China, I don't think China will allow any imbalance to come and creep into between Pakistan and India, number one. And number two, China has invested billions of dollars in Pakistan. There is no way to expect. I mean, I didn't hear this from a Chinese official, but I don't need to hear this from a Chinese official to know that China has invested billions of dollars in Pakistan. There's no way that China will let that investment go down the drain because, of whatever is happening between India and Pakistan. So for the geostrategic calculus of China, number one, and for the economic investments of China in Pakistan, number two, for these two reasons, and of course, number three, if you want to add the historical ties between Pakistan and China, obviously. So for all these three reasons, the Chinese response was expected, and I think I'm yet to see publicly, for example, the Chinese engage with both Pakistan and India in a mediatory role. We were yet to see that happening. I don't know if there are off the screen communications by China with India and Pakistan both. I'm sure there are with Pakistan, obviously, and we've seen that very openly in Pakistan. But I don't know with India if the Chinese are engaged or trying to mediate. But I can expect the Chinese would move in very quickly if there is any threat of an immediate imbalance, geostrategic imbalance between Pakistan and India.
I think you're right. It was really heartening to see China's kind of support, not just verbal support, but actual providing defensive support. There was PL-15 missiles being sent to Pakistan to defend itself. But all of this, it is heartening to see that. And I think hopefully we'll also see some of that kind of taking place between the relationships between the Taliban and Pakistan as well, because that's another area that's very important to Pakistan. And it's very important to China at the same time, because China's investment, as you mentioned, China wouldn't want to see that being placed at risk. And that's another area of tension between India and Pakistan, because Pakistan has long been accusing Pakistan of supporting TTP in Balochistan. So we'll see how some of that pans out as well. But it is heartening to see this support coming out from China at the moment. Altaf, what I'll ask you, because I don't want this conversation just to be between what's going on between India and Pakistan, as important, as dangerous as the situation is. We should not ignore the people in occupied Kashmir who are the main victims in all of this. So the first thing that I wanted to say is that the statements coming out from Kashmiri leaders, I thought it was very sensible, because immediately they came out and said that they don't want to take advantage of a terrorist situation to try and push forward their call for independence or autonomy of Kashmir. How do you take the statements coming out of the Kashmiri leaders in all of this? Altaf, sorry, can you hear me?
Altaf, I don't see Altaf Sab here. I think Please.
Hassan, while we carry on talking, can you please see if you can bring back Altaf Sabs to the conversation? Maybe he got disconnected.
Yeah, I think he got disconnected probably.
Okay. Ahmed, do you want to take that question? How do you see the statements coming out of the Kashmiri leaders and their reaction to this whole situation?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked this question, Tafim, because just yesterday I was watching one of the Indian channels and I saw Iltija Mufti being interviewed, I think by India Today's channel online. And I saw her and I was immediately, I left everything that I was doing and I sat down just to listen to what she will say, because I would assume that this would be a very difficult situation for. Obviously, it is primarily a very difficult situation for Kashmiris, because Tafim, let's also not forget. I mean, I was one of the Indian media sources mentioned that they're expecting losses to the Kashmiri economy to the tune of up to $1 billion if this crisis continues, because of the tourism revenue, because this is a season. We're just starting getting into summer, obviously, and this is the season up until September and October. So up to $1 billion of losses. So it's and I was watching many of the Kashmiris who were really upset because this will their shops and everything and hotels are empty right now. So and that the Indian media is covering this aspect as well. So I was interested in seeing how Iltija Mufti will respond. So two things that stood out to me, and one is that she was very, very clear in responding to the Indian journalist who was interviewing her. When he asked her about her reaction to what happened, the 26 people who were killed, the tourists, and she protested that. She said, as a Kashmiri politician, she was offended. She did not use the word offended, but she almost said it. Why are you asking me? I mean, we are humans. We are humans, and who would not be upset to see 26 innocent people dead? Let's not forget that most of them were Indian citizens, but there was one Kashmiri also, a Kashmiri Muslim who died.
Yeah.
And many Kashmiris who did not die, thankfully, but actually helped the Indian tourists get to safety after the attack. So many Kashmiris actually stepped up and risked their lives and security. And one of them actually died.
He died trying to save the people. Yes,
save the Indian tourists. And most obviously, most of the Indian tourists were Indian Hindus. One of them was Indian Christian, and one was Kashmiri Muslim. So Iltija Mufti, I was very surprised and pleased actually for her to see her protest actually the way the Indian media is asking Kashmiris, do you condemn this? And she basically responded, we are, before we look at each other as, you're an Indian tourist and I'm a Kashmiri Muslim, please look at us, we are humans. Who would be happy to see men or fathers being killed in front of their wives or children in an incident like this? So that's number one. She made a very, very good, strong point on Indian media defending the Kashmiris. Number one. Number two, what she said again was very interesting. The Indian media is continuously asking Indian Kashmiri politicians what they think about terrorism from Pakistan. And obviously the Indian media is assuming that the incident was committed, somehow Pakistan had a role in it. Mm-hmm. And I was interested to see how Iltija Mufti would respond to that. And she handled it, not only she, but also other Kashmiri politicians. And her main argument basically was, we have questions. We Kashmiris have questions here. Number one, the distance from Pakistan. So more than 200 kilometers. We would like to know what were the Indian security forces in Kashmir, what were they doing? How this security lapse really happened. So first of all, we want an answer to this question. We as Kashmiris, number one, we want an answer. Number two is we would like to. Obviously, nobody wants war. Nobody wants war, but we would like to see the Indian government, instead of going into this whole campaign of military escalation of tensions, we would like to see cooler minds prevail. So she handled it, I think, very well. And I didn't see many. Obviously, it's a very difficult situation, Tafim, right now for Kashmiri politicians. And I'm not surprised that not many of them are speaking openly about it, because it's very complexing. On the one hand, as a Kashmiri politician, you need to be sensitive to the fact that Kashmiri economy is going to suffer now as a result of this attack. So a Kashmiri politician is now torn between the security and safety of the population, number one. Number two, the jingoism and the warmongering coming from the Indian media and from the Indian state and Indian officials. And number three, the fact that they need to also pay attention to the fact that a large number of Kashmiris are sympathetic to Pakistan also.
Yeah.
And they have sympathies with Pakistan as well. So they don't like this warmongering, anti-Pakistan building of a momentum. So if the Indian state is going to speak against Pakistan, how about also talk about the security lapses of the Indian security forces themselves? How this happened?
Hey there. I hope you're enjoying this episode. Let me just take a moment to introduce our sponsors for today. This episode is kindly being sponsored by the Worldwide Listings Company Limited, or WLC for short. WLC is a complete A to Z Amazon account management service. So if you're looking to start an e-commerce business, or you already have a business that you want to take to the next level, then get in touch and WLC will be able to help. Just for transparency purposes, let me also mention that WLC is a company that I personally created and am a director of. So when you get in touch with WLC, you will be speaking with directly myself or my team, and we very much look forward to speaking with you to see how we can serve your needs. Thank you. And with that said, let's get back to the episode. Exactly. I think there was a number of failures on the side of the Indian state, which the Indian media isn't really addressing at all. As you mentioned, there's a failure of security, a failure of intelligence, there's a failure of this whole normalization thing that they're trying to do in Kashmir, which if they were serious about normalizing situation inside Kashmir, then they would actually appreciate the remarks, the sensible statements coming out of the Kashmiri leaders, and then react accordingly, not going around and capturing or taking into custody, I think, over 2,000 innocent Kashmiris now, while at the same time, somehow they managed to allow these 5 terrorists to come in and do all of this, despite all of the checkpoints and everything that Altaf Wani was talking about earlier, and how these people managed to escape, and now how these people are still out free. So the first thing that the state should be concentrating on is trying to capture these people and neutralizing them, not trying to pick a war with Pakistan. So I think there's a number of these failures that are coming out.
And especially, Tafhim, especially when you don't have yet any evidence linking Pakistan. I mean, you can't just say, well, I'm accusing Pakistan because traditionally Pakistan helped India, or at some point, some Kashmiris used to come from the Pakistani side. Yeah. That's not enough. I mean, you can't just simply fall back on what happened in the past, because we all know since President Musharraf's days in Pakistan, Pakistan actually allowed India to seal the LOC. Infiltration is not possible. You cannot go around now and tell the international community that Pakistan is involved in infiltration, because the international community actually knows that Pakistan, under President Musharraf, allowed India actually to build a border sort of a separator, a very high security separator, which does not allow for easy infiltration. So no easy infiltration can happen. Maybe some, very with great difficulty, some form of infiltration might be possible.
Of course.
There's no 100% secure border anywhere in the world, but the international community knows. Usually, Tafhim, I don't know if maybe a lot of people don't know this, that usually whenever India tried to seal the LOC, Pakistan military used to shell and stop the construction work on the Indian side to seal the LOC. So traditionally, Pakistan did not allow India to seal the LOC, but everything changed after 9/11. So after 9/11, President Musharraf, in order to show both India and the international community that Pakistan has nothing to hide, we are not sending terrorists to Kashmir under Indian occupation, and as a proof of that, we will let this time the Indian side and the Indian military to seal the LOC. So for the first time in the year 2002 and 2003, Indian military actually for the first time was successful in sealing the LOC, and Pakistan allowed it and did not shell. So now India cannot simply go to the international community and say, well, you know what, Pakistan is sending terrorists. Well, the international community knows, the UN knows, the Security Council knows, the United States, the major countries in the Middle East and in the West, they all know that Pakistan actually allowed India to seal the LOC. So India has to come up with better evidences to show that yes, this incident actually has some sort of a link with Pakistan.
Yes. I mean, if I had a voice in Indian security, I would say the first thing would be to concentrate on capturing these 5 terrorists.
I love that point. I mean, that's such a
Interview
great
them,
point.
bring them on TVs, have the international media interview them, establish a link between them and Pakistan, and then get the international community behind you, and then take whatever actions you want to take against Pakistan.
Exactly. That's a very good point. That's such an you explained it in I think someone from the Pakistani government side should listen to this argument and use it maybe in their diplomatic counteroffensive of India.
Yeah,
That's
and I think this is the point, because India, first of all, they have no evidence. But even if they claim that they have evidence, and the fact that they're not wanting to share that with Pakistan or with anyone in the international community, and clearly shows that they have something to hide. And the fact that Pakistan is continuously saying, bring in neutral observers, present the evidence, and establish that link, it clearly shows that Pakistan doesn't, on this occasion, there's nothing that Pakistan has to hide. And that this is what the irritation is quite clear on the Pakistani side. And that I think this is what India needs to realize, that if they think that they could do a surgical attack in Pakistan, the response they're going to get is not going to be a subtler response like they got in previous occasions. Because I think at this stage, the Pakistani state is getting irritated, where they cannot allow India or on any occasion to just decide that Pakistan is guilty of something that they will prevent no evidence of, and then they will just go and try and launch attacks inside Pakistan. I think Pakistan has now decided that this will not be allowed.
That makes perfect sense, I think. But we have to, since we're talking about this, Tafhim, I think we need to also, I should mention this, that I think we're going to see, obviously, and you mentioned it so well in the beginning when you said India has pushed itself into a corner where there's no option but to mount some sort of military action. And we're going to see a military action. We heard a very good statement from the Pakistani military where the military spokesman said, India will decide where to hit in Pakistan, but we will decide where it will end and how it will end, and the Pakistani response, obviously. So it's not over. It's very serious. Let's hope that cooler minds prevail, even if a limited military action happens, that it does not escalate into something bigger. But that will only depend on what India does, actually, because it doesn't have many options. They're too scared to send in their fighter jets because they don't want to repeat what happened in 2019 with with their fighter jet falling inside Pakistan and their pilot being captured. But and Pakistan is very, very well ready for that. Pakistani Air Force has proven its mettle. But if they go for a ground incursion, that will be disastrous. That will be definitely disastrous, because Pakistan does not have a strategic depth, Tafin. If you see the map, it does not have a strategic depth. Pakistan will be forced to use, and Pakistan has the means and the ability, obviously, and it will be forced to use powerful responses, and that could, obviously, the Indians at that point, to avoid a possible stopping of their military action or a possible defeat at that stage, will respond with further reinforcements, and that could very, very quickly escalate. Let's hope that the engagement that we saw yesterday by the Secretary of State of the US and also by the Secretary of Defense, a lot of people actually are not paying attention to the fact that the US Secretary of Defense, although he came out on Twitter with a very robust support, public support for India, but in diplomacy, Tafin, that kind of public support actually hides what comes next. And what comes next is a quiet engagement and, communicating to India, that, we're supporting you. We have publicly said we support you, but, it's time to sort of contain this and not as it.
Ahmed, lastly, what I wanted to ask you, I'm based here in the UK, so obviously I don't know what's going on the ground in Pakistan, but I have like relationships and business contacts in Pakistan, and I've been calling them recently to say, how are you guys taking all of this? And they're just going around about with their day-to-day life. They're saying that, like, we're just trying to earn a living and to carry on with work and stuff. We're not bothered about all of this stuff. So I think that's really positive, given the fact that some of these people I was talking to were in Lahore, which is like 20 minutes away from the border and between India and Pakistan. So can you tell me a little bit about what the situation is as you see it with general public inside Pakistan?
Yes, it's. I'm glad you asked this, because if you're in Pakistan, it's. I would say it's almost business as usual. I mean, it's amazing how Pakistanis are not taking this. I mean, everybody knows war is a serious business, but India has been doing this for so many years that Pakistanis. I mean, you'd see more memes and jokes on social media from Pakistanis than you would see any serious reactions.
Yes.
I would assume that India is a large country, Tafhim, and I haven't seen, for example, Indian channels going, for example, to the farthest points of India to see what the Indian reaction is. But I can tell you, Tafhim, I have no doubt that beyond New Delhi, nobody is in India also taking the Indian government now too seriously. And that is although, I mean, we can laugh about this, but it's also a worrying thing, because that's exactly what could force the Indian government to maybe do something now to restore its reputation and respect, and that's the problematic thing, because I don't think, apart from the Indian media trying to whip up this military and war environment, I don't think a lot of people are convinced, both in India and Pakistan, that the Modi government has really many options. It doesn't. It doesn't have many options. And the fact that they've taken now 10, 11 days to continue to study. I mean, I can see beginnings of the signs of fatigue in the warmongering Indian media itself. I mean, how long can they continue every day doing the same programs, the same rhetoric, the same thing? I mean, they are in a fix themselves. And I was just watching last night, checking the YouTube viewership of some of these warmongering Indian media shows and TV shows and YouTube shows, and I'm beginning to see the viewership falling, actually. From a high of 200,000 views or maybe 300,000 views, and it's coming down now to 50, 60,000. So people are like, are you really serious about this war? Where's the war? We don't see the war. In fact, many of the Indian TV channels which were doing round the clock 24/7 war coverage have now moved on to the census in India, the caste census, and I don't know, other issues and business and economy. And I think the Indian Prime Minister was supposed to, yesterday or today, is supposed to go and open some commercial venture or something in one of the Indian states, and they're moving toward that. So there is a fatigue creeping in on the Indian war coverage, so to speak, where we're yet to see the war really happen. And in fact, the delay in Indian action is also leading lots of Indians to adopt the similar attitude that you see in Pakistan, which is it's business as usual.
Yes.
Let's see when the war happens. Mr. Modi doesn't have many options. Let's see what he comes up with.
Yeah.
I hate to be right now an Indian journalist. I would hate to be an Indian TV anchor, and I would definitely hate to be an Indian government official who is in a fix how to come out of this. We've built up the war euphoria, but we are in a very, very difficult place when it comes to what to do with Pakistan. Pakistan is not an easy country to just simply. It's not a walk in the park. Pakistan is not a walk in the park.
Ahmed, thank you so much. It's always a huge pleasure to speak with you and to get your very objective and reasonable analysis on the situation. So I really appreciate your time and your analysis. It was also lovely to have Altaf Wani with us, because the experience, the knowledge, the information that he can bring to us, to the viewers, with his experience of occupied Kashmir and seeing things from both sides. I think that was hugely appreciated, but it's unfortunate that we lost that connection.
Exactly, yeah. Because Wani Saab is the foremost voice on Kashmir. I don't think there's anybody in Pakistan right now who's as well informed. There are many, obviously, India experts in Pakistan, but Altaf Wani is, I think, the foremost authority on the situation both in India and in Kashmir.
Yes, and I'm hugely grateful to him that he gives us time. When we do have questions, he's available to share his knowledge. So inshallah, we'll bring you both in
you
your
very
future
much,
day, and we'll
always
pray that
an honor.
everything goes well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take it. Salaam.
Take care.